Even though change was made, some things remained the same. The Raiders take a L versus the Chargers and now 2-10 on the season. That plus more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for December 1st, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one sports podcast network. We're very proud of that. We're also very proud of the fact that this show grows each and every day, and you still rock with us each and every day, even though the Raiders' overall record so far in the season is now 2-10 after their most recent loss to the LA Chargers. So we thank you. We also thank my man Ari, who does a great job behind the scenes on the YouTube page, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And, of course, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. If you want to be a part of the show, we'll make sure to make that happen. Matter of fact, coming up in segment number 3, we'll hear from you. A lot of calls, lots of texts. We'll close out the show hearing from you. Segment number 2, we'll continue to talk about the dysfunction with the Raiders offense. On Friday's show, I played a very lengthy clip from Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network as he was a guest on the Rich Eisen show, talking about the offense, talking about the dysfunction, the disconnection between Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, and everything Chip Kelly was doing wrong, or at least reportedly was doing wrong. Well, of course, that was not going to be left alone. So now there's reports out, and Ian Rappaport from NFL Network as well, who works very closely with Tom Pelissero, has his own story out. So basically a retaliation from Chip Kelly on what was going wrong and if this was even really his offense that he was trying to run. So it's now the blame game going on with the silver and black. Where'd it go wrong? It's your fault. Where'd it go wrong? No, it's your fault. Yeah, that's what's going on. So you could tell never had a chance at all. So we'll talk about that. You'll hear from Ian Rappaport coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, which obviously following a game day is just about the game and the recent loss to the Chargers, 31-14, closing out week 13. We'll jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that's Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So, again, the Raiders lose to the Chargers 31-14. They're now 0-10 in their last 10 division games. 0-10, just not acceptable. Something we talked about before the season started for the Raiders to be a good team this year, for the Raiders to have a chance in the AFC West. They had to go at least 500. They did not. They are so far 0-10 in the last 10, which is absolutely a shame. They've been eliminated from playoff contention. Not that any of us thought that they were going to make some late season run and be a playoff team. They have been eliminated. The drought will continue, and they have not won a postseason game since 2003. Let that soak in. 2003 was the last time the Raiders won a postseason game. That's bad. I mean, that's bad. That's if I'm sending a text or a tweet and it's all in caps, that's how bad that is. They just have not been able to get it together. They have not been able to figure it out, no matter what coach it is, no matter what coordinator it is, no matter what kind of quarterback they have running out there. They just aren't able to get it done. But going back to the game on Sunday, the Chargers, this will really tell you the story of the game. The Chargers ran 67 total plays to the Raiders 46. The Chargers were 12 of 17 on third down. 12 of 17, just about perfect. The Raiders were 2-8. The Chargers total yards, 341, while the Raiders, 156. And here's the topper. Time of possession for the Chargers, 35 minutes and 48 seconds. The Raiders, 24 minutes and 12 seconds. So the Raiders' defense was on the field the majority of the game. And they actually did a really good job early on keeping them in the game. You know, it was actually 7-7 at halftime, even though the Chargers had really dominated the first half. It didn't show that on the scoreboard. The Raiders' defense was able to come away with the red zone interception. Caillou Blue Kelly came away with the interception when it looked like the Chargers were going in. Then the Raiders had a big fourth down stop that kept the Chargers off the scoreboard as well. Even though, like I said, they had dominated in the first half, the score didn't reflect that and really gave the Raiders an opportunity. They just weren't able to do it. They weren't able to get off the field on third down when they needed to. And obviously the offense, even though Greg Olsen was calling the shots as opposed to Chip Kelly, still was not able to get it done. It just wasn't. The Chargers, 192 rushing yards. The Raiders, 31. Ashton Genty, 15 carries, 31 yards. And, I mean, I hate to think what's going on in his mind when he's a dude that's had so much success and so much production in college. And obviously we know getting to the NFL is a different ball game, especially going from the Mountain West to the NFL is definitely a different ball game. But, man, I mean, this dude's a running back. This dude's a really good quality back, and he really can't show that and showcase that. And to the point where there may be a little bit of doubt creeping in his mind. Now, every time we talk to him at the facility, he always sounds very confident, very encouraged. He doesn't sound discouraged. He continues to lean on his faith and his teachings and everything that, his pops has shown him as a military guy, just kind of the discipline that he has. He's really sounded like he's in a good place. But, man, when you go from having all the success to having no success at all, I mean, at some point, some doubts got to creep into your mind, right? Geno Smith sacked another 5 times. So if you're keeping track, that's 15, was that, how many is that, 25 in the last 4 games? Man, I was trying to do the math myself. It got so much. 10 sacks last week against Cleveland, 5 against the Chargers on Sunday. You had 4 against the Cowboys on that Monday night game, and then you had 6 against Denver. And, oh, by the way, Denver's coming to town. So, yeah, those sacks continue to pile up on Geno Smith. Some of those on the offensive line, some of them on him. He's had time to get rid of the ball, but the one thing I noticed from Greg Olson's offensive play calling on Sunday was there was a lot of 2-man routes. So there was a lot of guys that were staying in trying to protect, so there really wasn't too many places for Geno to go with the ball. You saw him checking down or attempting to check down to Ashton Jeanty quite a bit. The Raiders did allow Caleb Rogers to get into the game. They had a little right guard rotation going on between Rogers and Antonio Mafi, which I don't think that they really need to have that kind of rotation, but that's what they're doing. So Mafi, a guy that actually was very familiar with Chip Kelly, he worked with them when they were at UCLA together. He got into the action. Caleb Rogers was in the action. Caleb is the one who actually started at the right guard spot. And no, it wasn't perfect, but he got the young fellow a little bit of burn. So probably expect to see that rotation continue. Caleb Rogers and Antonio Mafi with the rotation at the right guard spot. And the cornerback rotation continued as well with Caillou Blue Kelly and Darian Porter. And Caillou did come away with the big interception early in the game that kept the Chargers out of the end zone. Max Crosby continued to do Max Crosby things, a couple sacks, multiple pressures. He did have a bad unsportsmanlike penalty late in the game. Not going to lie. That clearly was a frustration penalty. Justin Herbert was barking. I don't know if he was barking necessarily right at him, but Max, basically indicated that, hey, you were right in my ear with that, and so he pushed him down. It is what it is. That's, Max showing his frustration. I get it, right? He's out there giving everything that he's got. The defense is giving everything that they've got. They're making a few plays here and there, but then they, again, couldn't get off the field on third down. And a lot of the, to be honest, was second and short, third and short. So it was just a tough day at the office for the defense, who again started out pretty strong, but wasn't able to, hold up when they needed to the most. The Raiders had 2 really good drives offensively. That's it, right? They had a drive early in the game where there was 9 plays, 4 minutes and 42 seconds off the clock, resulted in a Brock Bowers touchdown. Then late in the game in the fourth quarter, 13 plays, 7 minutes off the clock, resulted in a Brock Bowers touchdown. That was an incredible catch. Just an incredible one-handed catch by Bowers, and he's the bright spot. Him, Max, Jeanty, if he can ever really get going, is the bright spots for this Raiders team. I mean, there's just not a whole lot to get excited about and fired up about. But that was nice. But unfortunately for the Raiders, late in the fourth quarter, they have a drive that's 7 minutes long. That's the last time that you want to have a long drive like that, because you know that the clock is working against you. So, they had the 2 drives, and that was it. They have not been able to find a drive that they could sustain all year, right? They have not found a style of offense that they could play where it's like, okay, that's exactly who this team is going to be. We've talked about it so many times. They don't have an identity. And again, on Sunday, they showed that they did not have an identity offensively, even though they tried to establish the run. It just wasn't cooking. Geno couldn't really get anything going. And when the Raiders needed to get off the field on third down, they weren't able to get off the field on third down. And the Chargers get the dub, 31-14. Justin Herbert actually left the game early, came back in with a glove on his hand and his fingers taped up. Come to find out, he actually broke one of his fingers. He's going to have surgery on today about it, so to try to address it. So there's no indication if he's going to continue to play this upcoming week, or if it's going to be Trey Lance, who came into the game briefly while he was back in the locker room. But Justin Herbert's a tough dude, and you saw that he was able to tough it out throughout the course of the game. But all in all, some things changed. Greg Olson now in at the play calling. Some things remain the same. Offense still not very good, and the Raiders are now 2-10 and have lost 6 straight on the 2025 season. But that is not the biggest storyline. The biggest storyline is the dysfunction that the Raiders offense has had, and it really started at the very beginning. And to me, it never had a chance. We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why Gametime app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to getting seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment that they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You can pull up the app, check out the layout. It makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. You can pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. Price includes fees up front, which you're going to love. No last-second surprises at checkout. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets the moment that they drop instead of missing out. What do you need to do right now? Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. We know that the season is a wrap. The Raiders are 2-10. We could talk about the games until we're blue in the face. We could talk about what went right, what went wrong. We can do all that. But it all seems like it went wrong from the beginning. And this is what I really hate about where this season has gone and everything that's rolling out right now. This is exactly what the Raiders were trying to avoid. At least that's what it seemed like from my perspective, from where I'm at, my view and my, the blessing that I get to go to practice. I get to talk to coaches. I get to talk to players. Everything seemed like the hires that were made with John Spytek, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, retaining Patrick Graham, making sure that, Robbie Leonard was still in-house, making sure Tom McMahon was still in-house, was stability. Tom Brady, being part minority owner, was going to help stabilize the organization. The other minority owners stabilize the organization. That's all we heard, right? Stabilize, stabilize, stabilize. This has felt like anything but stable, and that continues. And just a quick recap. So Diana Russini of The Athletic had a piece that she dropped the other day, late last week, and it said quarterback coach Greg Olsen has taken over as the offensive coordinator in Vegas after the team fired Chip Kelly on Sunday. I'm told minority owner Tom Brady was a big advocate of bringing in Kelly to run the offense. He has shared with some people close to him his disappointment in the team's overall performance. His frustration goes beyond the offense, too. That was part one. All right. And then if you remember on Friday's show, I had the sound, and it was a pretty lengthy sound from Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, NFL Insider. He was a guest on the Rich Eisen show talking about the Raiders' offense dysfunction. And like I said, it was very lengthy. Not going to play the whole thing over, but I just want you to hear and remember what he had to say about Chip Kelly and the way that he was running the Raiders' offense.
And there are all kinds of different stories, Rich, about just the dysfunction of the Raiders' offense. There were times I was told where Chip Kelly was repeatedly botching the play calls, where he's supposed to be, for instance, tagging a motion on a play so the receiver's on the left, not the right. He forgets to say it, so Geno Smith is going to the line of scrimmage and going, this doesn't look right, and they're trying to run a play. It happened on a third down in the game the other day. There's times where Chip, I was told on several occasions, called a play that was either not in the game plan or not installed at all.
So that was just, again, recapping the sound that I played on Friday's show from Tom Pelissero about Chip Kelly, not getting the play call in correctly, lining guys up incorrectly. Like there was some dysfunction on his part getting the play calling in. Now, as I mentioned on Friday's show, there's going to be another report that comes out that's going to say, yeah, that didn't necessarily happen. Or you can imagine that you're not going to hear someone's name talked about like that, and then all of a sudden it's just going to go away. Well, Pete Carroll, he sent a text to Vinny Bonsignore saying, hey, that actually didn't happen. So then me and Vinny are like, okay, well, there's something here to this story. Let's continue to do some investigation. So trust and believe there's more on the way where that's coming from. But then there's an article from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. Raiders' decision to fire OC Chip Kelly underscored lack of cohesion in the building under head coach Pete Carroll. This is also from late last week. Matter of fact, I think it dropped on Saturday. You can find that on NFL.com. But on Sunday morning before the game, on the NFL Insiders, Rap Sheet had this to say about the Raiders' offensive dysfunction, which really just kind of quickly recaps the article that he has on NFL.com. Check it out.
You want to talk about offensive dysfunction? Cool. Let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. They played the Chargers today with interim offensive coordinator Greg Olsen now calling the plays, of course, because as we know, Chip Kelly was fired after last week's debacle. The second coordinator that Pete Carroll has fired this season, the special teams coordinator Tom McMahon, also fired. And talk to people who know this offense very well, people who've studied this offense and played against it. They do not believe that it was Chip Kelly's offense. They believe it was Pete Carroll's offense, specifically the Pete Carroll offense from Seattle 2023. Sounds to me like if Chip Kelly had to do this again, would not have taken this job. So what does this all mean, Tom? It means the win now coach in Las Vegas has not done very much winning at all. Certainly puts Pete Carroll on the hot seat in what has been a difficult season.
So now you can see where the blame game is going, right? So in one piece, it's like, okay, it was all Chip Kelly's fault. In the other piece, it was like, no, that wasn't even Chip Kelly's offense. That was Pete Carroll's offense, just ran by Chip Kelly. So you can see now it's the your fault, finger pointing. If that's not the biggest 12-year-old or high school BS that you can think of, and that's what's going on with this organization. Again, as I started this whole segment, what did I talk about? Stability. That was why the Raiders hired Pete Carroll. Stability. Adults in the room. Been there, done that. I mean, we spent all summer on all my platforms, every show that I do, every podcast that I've done, any guest that I interviewed, hey, man, there's adults in the room. Don't want to say that, Antonio Pierce and company weren't adults, but now there's adults in the room. There's stability. There's guys with a good resume. There's guys that have been there, done that. Man, everything's going to be great. And instead, it just sounds like and seems like there's nothing but inner fighting going on from the jump, from day one. And I've talked about it. Without knowing any of this stuff, I talked about it very early on in the process and said, does not seem like Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly are on the same page. And this is what happens when you have arranged marriages. And that's why this Raiders team, and I hate doing the hire, fire. Like, I'm not that guy. Anyone who's listened to this show for any amount of time or any other show I'm on knows I'm never one for just go ahead and fire someone. But this has got to be done correctly. I don't know what it's going to take for this organization to understand you cannot operate like this in 2025 in the National Football League. There was a time where there could be one guy that could run everything with a team. Like Al Davis did it for a long time with the Raiders, right? He ran everything, every element of it. He had his thumbprint on. But things are way too advanced now. So it takes more than one guy. And so you have so many different people in the building that have to contribute. They have to all be on the same page. If you're a one-man band, guess what? You don't have to worry about being on the same page as someone else because it's your page and your page only. I say it about my radio show all the time, Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920. I don't have a co-host, right? It's me and Ari. Ari's producing, and every once in a while he'll chime in and say something, but it's just me. So I can go whatever direction I want to go, and ain't nobody going to have no pushback, right? My co-host isn't going to get mad at me. But if I have a co-host, I got to run it by him. We got to be on the same page. That's just a simple radio show. Can you imagine trying to run an NFL team? It doesn't work. You have to be on the same page. So you can't have arranged marriages. You can't have the GM hired by one guy, the head coach hired by another guy, the offensive coordinator brought in by another guy. Like, you just can't. And then all these different philosophies. So, unfortunately, the only way the Raiders are going to be able to clean this up and get this organization back to actually having a true commitment to excellence and just win, baby, actually meaning something more than just what I say at the end of the podcast or a T-shirt you buy at the store, they are going to have to, again, break it all the way down and hire guys that are all on the same page. Now, is John Spytek savable? Possibly, but he's got to be able to be in charge of actually going out and getting his guy. He's got to make the hire. John Spytek, the GM, this is who I hired to be the head coach, and this is why. And this is who the head coach hired to be the offensive coordinator, and this is why. And this is how us as a collective unit are going to build this thing together. You can't try to piece it together and say, hey, this guy, he's got a track record of success. Hey, this guy, he's been on a organization that's successful, and we're going to give him the opportunity to be a GM for the first time, but we're going to put him with this coach that, is very stuck in his ways. Oh, and then we're going to bring in this sharp offensive mind of Chip Kelly, and he's going to do things his way. Like, you just can't do it like that. You really can't. And I've used this example before, even when the Rams had hired Sean McVay to be the head coach originally. Remember when he first got the job with the Rams, he was strictly 100% in charge of the offense. And he brought in Wade Phillips, who's a longtime defensive-minded coach, right? He was a head coach for a while as well, but much better defensive coordinator. And he said, Wade, you do you with the defense. You do you. I'm not going to worry about it. There was times Sean McVay wouldn't even have he would have his back to the field because he'd be talking to the offense while the defense was on the field. Hey, man, you go ahead and do that. I'm over here. And that's how they made that work. And it's not what happened with the Raiders. Pete Carroll, that would be a good coordinator. Pete Carroll didn't tell Chip Kelly, hey, man, you go do your thing, right? They just didn't. They wanted to have their own influences, and we could say that about the defense as well. The defense that Patrick Graham is running is like a blend of what Pete Carroll likes to run and what Patrick Graham wants to run, as opposed to, hey, PG, you do you. I kept you around for a reason. We gave you a raise for a reason. Now you go do you. Run the defense. And I know some people are like, Patrick Graham needs to go, get rid of him. Maybe. And maybe they do, right? Maybe they end up going in a separate direction because they're not happy with the results. But they're also not letting him run his defense. So now you got Chip Kelly running maybe his offense, maybe Pete Carroll's offense. You got Patrick Graham maybe running his defense, maybe Pete Carroll's defense. You got John Spytek getting the groceries, right, to try to build a team, but not really showcasing them because Pete Carroll doesn't want to do it. You know what I mean? It's just like there's just so much dysfunction going around. You're never going to succeed. So maybe Spytek is savable, but I think outside of that, everyone else is going to probably have to go. Everyone else is probably going to be victim. And, oh, by the way, and then Pete Carroll brings in Brendan Carroll and Nate Carroll to be position coaches, right? Offensive coordinator and not quarterback coach, but I forget what Nate Carroll is. But he's on the staff too, right? And so now this isn't even guys that Chip Kelly wants. So, I mean, it seems like nobody ever had a real chance to succeed, even though everything sounded good and looked good from our point of view while we're watching everything go through OTAs and, mandatory minicamp and training camp preseason. It's like, okay, all right, this is all going to work. Everyone's all on the same page. They're all, working to the same goal. And it was just nothing, a whole lot of nothing. So, when there's one story and there's one side of things, I want to make sure I update both sides of things. And you know what? It probably won't be the last. We'll probably hear some more before it's all said and done. And the Raiders still have 5 more games to play to finish out this season. Who knows what they'll do? But they've got, the schedule looks tough. It looks very tough. The last game that I looked at the schedule and thought, oh, that's a winnable game, was the Browns game. And we saw what happened in that one. So they got Denver coming to town this week, and you know how good Denver and their defense is and how many fits they give the Raiders. But what's on your mind, your calls and texts? We'll hear from you as we close out the show. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know about another great sponsor we have here on the show, and that's PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball games, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You pick more or less on at least 2 players or player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, it's fast, and it's available in 45 states, including Cali, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. You can create a lineup, take less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth. And, you can't complain about that. Trust and believe it'll be done, set, locked in before you know it. You could choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy scores, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy, they've got you. And this is one that you'll really like. Early payout features, a great bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you may get the option to cash out early. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to make sure we hear from you at 707-654-4693. Again, thanks so much for making this show your first listen of the day. Also want to shout out to the Hood Holiday, the first of the month. No, I didn't forget about it. Just had a lot to get to. So, wake up. It's the first of the month, right? Got to celebrate that. Shout out to Bone Thugs. But yeah, we just want to do it in a little bit of order. Make sure that you're paying attention and locked in. But we do want to hear from you. Your calls and texts again, 707-654-4693. Let's start out with a text from Brenda. Brenda says, hello, happy Sunday. Not one effing thing has changed with the offensive line today. What is it going to take to demote or fire Brennan? Have a great week. Go Raiders, Brenda. Short, sweet, and I think that's what a lot of people were saying. Brendan Carroll, the offensive line coach, offensive line coordinator, obviously he's not getting it done. And when you give up 5 sacks in a day, you gave up 10 sacks last week, you gave up 4 sacks before that, you gave up 6 sacks before that. I mean, you're going to be under the gun. And that's exactly what he is. And there's going to have to be a decision made sooner rather than later. But I think it's just going to come at the end of the season when there's wholesale changes. I don't think there's any way to avoid it. As much as I don't like it, as much as I think continuity, you need to have it. You just can't keep, banging your head into the wall, and thinking that you're going to keep doing the same thing and it's going to get different results. We all know that's the definition of insanity. So you can't do that. But Brenda, thanks for the text. Thanks for leading us off. We definitely appreciate that. Up next, got a call from JD in the 909. He's calling to react to the game, talk about what stood out to him, good and bad. Here's JD in the 909.
Yo, what up, Q? It's JD 909. My thoughts on the game today. Man, defense kept us in it pretty much. Offensive play calling looked a little bit better today. Didn't look as predictable. You know, the play calling was a little different, more run. Couldn't really get that going, but I liked what I saw from the offensive line overall. I felt like they held up pretty good. They gave Geno plenty of opportunities to do something with the ball. He just was holding the ball too long, I felt. Like how he's been doing most of the season. Also throwing that ball to Dante Thornton in double coverage. I know Dante hasn't been catching anything also this season, but double coverage also got tipped. It is what it is. Geno, another interception, 14 now, leads the league, they're tied. But, he just obviously should just bench him, cause you know what we got with him. It's like, we got how many games? Like 4 games left. Let's see what we got. It seems like they don't got any hope with Kenny Pickett, so it's like, put AOC in. It's like, man, this is just BS Pete. I don't know what he's doing. They just need to get rid of him like I've been saying after week, but hey, guess they're not. I don't know what Mark Davis is doing. I guess he's just waiting to the end of the season, but like, make some changes already, you know? Alright. Love what you do, Pete. I'm out.
JD, thanks so much, my man. Appreciate you. Yeah, Geno was sacked another 5 times. Run game couldn't get going. Play calling was a little bit better at times. They had 2 good drives, but it just wasn't enough. Just wasn't enough. And at this stage of the game, how much different was it going to look? Right? You can see a little bit of a tweak here, a little tweak there, but it wasn't going to be much. And to be honest with you, I don't even know how much Greg Olsen really wanted to be the play caller. I think Greg Olsen was very comfortable in his quarterback coach's position. I don't think he wanted the task of being the offensive play caller, but that's what he's doing. He's serving that job and holding it down for the last 6 games, and we'll see what happens after that. But I mean, if you need evidence that he didn't necessarily want to be the offensive coordinator, the Raiders still have him listed as quarterback coach and play caller. When we interviewed him on Thursday, matter of fact, Thanksgiving, we were at the facility. We talked to Patrick Graham and we talked to Greg Olsen. It was told to us that he is still the quarterback's coach, quarterback's coordinator, and yeah, he's the play caller. So I mean, that's what we know what it is: offensive coordinator, interim offensive coordinator. But it just was interesting to me that they still had him listed as quarterback coach. But JD, thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate that. Got a text from Mark in South Carolina. Q, I have realized that we are not very good. The game was close starting the second half, but as it's been going on in several weeks, we came apart at every level possible. It's time to call a season a loss, so let's play our rookies and figure out what we need to improve. Also, I feel like we need to move on from Carroll. Time has unfortunately passed them by. Thanks. That's Mark, South Carolina. As much as I don't want to say it, I agree. I think that you're definitely going to have to move on from Pete Carroll, not necessarily because the game has passed them by, but the vision that this team, this organization has is not the same vision that he has. That's clear as day, right? That's as clear as it could be, that everyone does not share the same vision. And so to make this thing work, the only way this thing is going to work is if everyone shares the same vision. If one guy is rowing in one way and another guy is rowing in another way, guess what? You ain't going nowhere. Right? I don't have to be a guy out on the seas to tell you that, right? I don't have to be a guy in the boat with an oar to be able to tell you that. Like, I'm smart enough to know that if you're rowing in one way and the other person's rowing in the other way, guess what? You ain't going to go nowhere. You're not going to get where you need to be. That's for sure. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate that. Got a call from Army Raider. He's calling to talk about the game, the offense, and then has a simple question that he'd like to ask. Here's Army Raider.
Hey, Q, it's your boy Army Raider. Just driving home with my kiddo. Man, they got rid of Chip. The offense still sucks. He got 156 yards on the day. Bright spot was the Bowers touchdowns and actually trying to get him involved. Other than that, I mean, I think we got to start looking. And I'm going to ask a simple question. What has Pete done to deserve another year? Honestly, I know people are like, we can't keep firing coaches. But at this point, that dude if you listen to all the reports coming out, has been toxic, hard to work with. It's going to be near impossible for him to attract an OC after everything came out about how it went down with him and Chip and how his influence is what it is. The team's constantly unprepared. There's no improvement. And I think it's time we start having a serious conversation that I hope he succeeds, but we probably took Genty way too high. For all the people saying you don't take a running back up there, this is why. The dude I understand he's not getting the block in, but you still got to have more than the average in 2-point-something yards a carry. You know what I mean? You can't be 31 yards on 15 carries or 16 carries or whatever it was. I mean, hell, if it's 16, you're not even at 2 yards a carry. But I just want to ask that question, too. And I know you hear things closer than any of us. So with hearing everything about how, it's not the best behind the scenes, it's not easy to work with. He's obviously not getting along with the front office. He obviously, I guess, kind of was, I don't know, not the best to work with in the case of Chip with everything coming out there. Why should we bring him back? I just want somebody, anybody, I want to see if you can do it, to give me one good reason. Anyways, that's my time. Army Raider out.
Army, it's great to hear from you. Appreciate your service as always. Like to tell you that. And you're right, man. The offense is not good, right? They're just not. They're not good. Brock Bowers is obviously amazing. What he's able to do, the 2 touchdown catches that he had, especially that second one, the way he caught it with one hand is incredible. He's fantastic. We don't know if Ashton Genty's fantastic. I think that he is. I think he's a fantastic weapon, but he hasn't been utilized the way that any of us expected. So the offense is not very good. Geno's not very good at this stage of the game. I would prefer Geno not even coming back next year. I know that that's an $18.5 million dead hit, but I don't think anyone would be crying if Geno didn't return in 2026. I just think that it's at that stage of the game that you really just have to go ahead and just move on from him. Move on from him. He's not a fit with the Raiders, clearly. He's playing shell-shocked. And, when you get sacked 25 times in 4 games, we all would be shell-shocked. So I don't think that there's any reason to bring most of the people back, right? And again, if they decide to bring back Patrick Graham, that's on them, right? I can see him being a guy not coming back. I would like them to keep Robbie Leonard, maybe even make him defensive coordinator. I think he's up and coming and a very, very great talent, really good coach. Like, he could really get the most out of his guys. I think that Robbie Leonard would be someone that you definitely want to hold on to. But I think the list of guys that you hold on to is probably very minimal at this stage of the game. So thanks so much for that. I do appreciate you. And again, it just kind of goes back and shows the dysfunction that this Raiders team has had. And that's going to be all I got time for on today's show. I got a really good lengthy text from Miller Raider that we'll make sure we get off top coming up tomorrow. We'll meet with head coach Pete Carroll later on this afternoon, or this morning, I guess I should say, at the Intermountain Health Performance Center like he always does on Monday. We also have the Raiders Squad Show with Chantel Chan and Lincoln Kennedy. We'll do that at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. We got a lot for you. And unfortunately, it's not a lot of positivity. It's not a lot of rainbows and puppy dogs. Instead, it's another Raider loss. And where do they go from here? So, of course, we'll be back as we are each and every day. Not going to miss a show on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.